listening to the presentation by Right Honorable Barrister Onofiok Akpan. Look, he is to speak on leading in the midst of uncertainties. Please join me in welcoming Right Honorable Barrister Onofiok Akpan. Look, a man who has ensured that he keeps himself all around. A man who is the cynosure of the youthful expectations of past retreat, but at all times is making effort to ensure that his contemporaries do not find him wanting.
A very good afternoon to us all. We thank God for today. We give glory to God Almighty for a wonderful day and for what He has done. To Him alone be all the glory in the mighty name of Jesus. The time is fast spent. I know that you have been here since morning, and this is about 2:30, and I wouldn't intend to bore you any longer. I came here with a prepared speech, but somewhere along the line I boarded Ibom A by 10 on my way here, and then inside the flight I got a leading in my spirit to speak from my heart to you and then lead the speech. I will, however, leave the speech that I prepared with my sister Manti, and you probably would have opportunity to go through it. Let me start with this: community stakeholders for social good. And I've been asked to speak on the topic leading in the midst of uncertainties. This congregation answers the question of today. What we need to survive in this time of uncertainty is social good. That's what we need. Whether in the aspect of education or in the healthcare delivery or in the aspect of growing business, we need social good. Unfortunately, we have reclined to our personal comfort zone, that the instinct for survival has made us to become selfish, both in the public and the private sector, even in our businesses. Yes, you have a business idea that you probably would share with your fellow brother or sister who is in that business, because you all want to profiteer. You want to make all the profit in the whole world, so you hoard the information that you ought to have shared with your brother. That does not make for social good. You are in public service. You acquire all the funds you have away from your personal, quote me and listen to me rightly, away from your personal perks and privileges and entitlement. You go to acquire more than what you need because you want to be the only cock to crow in your society, and you want everybody to come bowing to you, and then you give them peanuts, and then you continue to tie them to your apron string. That does not make for social good. So in the midst of uncertainties, all what we need now is for us to step away from our comfort zone. The times are difficult and are hard. Really, times of uncertainties. Look at what is happening in the developed world. People would be opening windows to check on others. I saw a picture on the social media where in Italy, where they have to cross food from one story building to the other. That's what we need, and it is only social good that can deliver this. But I thank God that we've lifted this issue of social good to a point of a conversation about how we can collectively be stakeholders to deliver this social good, to grow the economy of Akwa Ibom State, and by extension the economy of Nigeria, in the midst of uncertainties that we are faced with today. And I want to start by saying that we are faced, uncertainties are everywhere. We had uncertainties in biblical times. And then our own uncertainties in Nigeria is peculiar. Away from the challenges of COVID-19, we have insecurity. That's an uncertainty. The insecurity is leading gradually to a disruption in food production. That uncertainty looming us in the face. How we come together and reason to find solutions to the general uncertainty that is facing us globally, which is COVID-19, and the peculiar uncertainties that are facing us as a nation is key. And how do we lead ourselves out of these uncertainties? I would be speaking using Nigeria and our state in context. I started by saying that uncertainties have happened in times and times and times and times. And so I will start from the spiritual aspect of what we need to do. And that's why the sub-themes, the three sub-themes of this conference are very key. Rethinking leadership, reconnecting people, and reinventing businesses. So those three sub-themes are what I will be sharing with you shortly on my own personal thoughts. And when I talk about my thoughts are born out of my experience in the office, in life. And so when I speak, I'm not going to give you a utopian ideas. I'm going to give you what I could call practical terms of how we can lead in these uncertain times. So first, what can we do to come out of and lead well in these uncertain times? I would ask you, the very first place to turn to is the Holy Book, the Bible. Yeah, I want you to hear me clearly. Turn to the Holy Bible, and that means you have to turn to God in times of uncertainties. And you ask me why? And I ask you, open to Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 to 7. I will first take from Message Bible. It said, trust God from the bottom of your heart. Don't try to figure out everything on your own. Listen to God's voice in everything you do. Everywhere you go, He is the one who will keep you on track. Next, let's go to James chapter 1. I'm building a foundation to tell you where to turn to in times of uncertainties. James chapter 1, verse 5. Pray to the Father. He loves to help. You will get His help and won't be condescended to when you ask of it. The other one I want you to write down is 2 Chronicles chapter 20. I won't read it. We are familiar with the story of where the three nations came against Israel. Was that a time of uncertainty? And the Bible is very clear. It said in verse 10, it said they did not know what to do. That's uncertainty. And what did they do? They turned to God in prayer. Did they get an answer? They did. So the very first thing I'm going to urge you, whether you are in business and then you have made an investment and you don't know what else to do, there comes a point in time when you don't know what else to do. You sure should turn to the one that knows tomorrow. And that is only God. And so the very first thing we need to do in this time of uncertainties, in the time of depression that we are, I've been distraught in the last 3 weeks. But I had to turn to God. Why? Because of the number of deaths of people that have been close to me. And I didn't know what else to do. It looks like, oh, what is it about life? But I got solace by turning to God and turning to God's word. So in time of uncertainties, I want to urge you, don't allow anybody to tell you there is nothing else. There is no book that is going to give you any more ideas of what to do in leading in this time than the Holy Bible. So turn to God. That's the first thing we need to do. So I'm talking about rethinking leadership first. And so what do we need to do in rethinking leadership? First, turn to God. Let the leadership turn to God and not think that they are wise in their own wisdom. Then secondly, is a time for proactive, pragmatic, hands-on leadership. It is not a time to begin to sit down and look at the books. When I say look at the books, there is no amount of what you can read that is going to solve the problem. So it needs creative thinking. And so you can only find solutions to those challenges if you are on the field. You can't sit in the office and find the challenges, solutions to those problems. The problems of any geographical entity, whether as a country or as a state or as a local government, does not lie in the office of the chief executive. It lies in the streets. And so you need to walk out in the streets. And let me give you an example of what I mean. I don't know how you would feel. I don't know where each and every one of you, the local governments you come from. I don't know how you would feel. Morgan, my friend, is from Arowanam. The headquarters of his local government is called Britain. And those who come from Ibn, the headquarters is Ubenegam. And those who come from Ika, Urayam. Or whether you come from Mbo, Ewan. I don't know how you would feel that on a Friday, you hear that the chief executive, the governor of the state, is coming to Mbo on a Friday. And he's not only coming to Mbo, he's coming for a weekend in Mbo, in Ewan. The governor arrives on a Friday evening and goes straight to the palace of the paramount ruler. And he has asked that the chiefs of all the villages be asked to sit in the palace of the paramount ruler to wait for the governor. And he's being given an idea that all the chiefs are coming to the governor and they are coming to give a first-hand information about what they need. Not what government thinks is good for the people of those villages, but what those villages think is good for them. And then they meet with the governor. The governor sits with the paramount ruler and the chiefs and shares dinner with them. And then he leaves. That is level 1 input. And then he goes to the security villages he's being given to sleep. He sleeps in these security villages. I'm talking about hands-on pragmatic leadership. The same thing happens to a president. So when I speak, don't narrow it down. I said the same thing happens to a president. We used to hear about president go on state visit the states for 3 or a whole weekend or 2-3 days. And then the same thing would happen to a chairman of the local government who leaves the headquarters of the local government and goes to the respective ward centers to spend at least a night in those ward centers. And so I'm talking about the state executive here. And then in the morning, he calls the big stakeholders, the enlightened stakeholders of those communities for a breakfast meeting and get a second level input about the challenges of that particular local government. And he shares with those people his ideas about the development of the state. He leaves, and by 11 o'clock he walks into a hall for a town hall meeting, whether it is in Okoita in Ibionibom local government area, whether it is in Odot in Sreta local government area, or whether it is in Abak in Abak local government area, or whether it is in Korapankuk in Ukanafon local government area. And then inside that town hall, each village is represented by the village head, chairman of the council, village council, the woman leader of that village, and the youth leader of that village. And then they bring a third level input about the challenges of the villages of that local government to His Excellency the Governor. And it takes a gate level input. I'm talking about pragmatic hands-on leadership if we want to get ourselves out of this. And I will share with you why this is necessary. Because by such visit, you would understand how many local governments or how many villages don't have primary health centers. Or how many local governments have primary health centers, but they are not well staffed. You will know the communicable diseases that are prevalent in such localities. And by that, you will now come back to profess solutions. You can't profess solutions to problems you don't know. And so after then, because you must have a buy-in, which talks about reconnecting people. You must have a buy-in. And so there are certain persons you must give them what they want and then get them to share in your opinion and idea about development. He returns and then he's being asked to take through the major routing in that local government. To look at critical infrastructure that government can intervene on immediately, assuming that there is a Bailey bridge that does not allow children to cross to the next village to go to school. He sees it for himself, or she sees it for herself. Or the president sees that there is an Ascon in Ikorobasi that is lying comatose, or he sees that there is the Ajakuta steel mill in Kogi State. He sees it for himself because there's a local saying in our place. He's not going to be waiting for the report of technocrats, sometimes who write those reports, and then those reports are skewed for personal selfish interest. And then he goes to look at those. He asks for a major routing to be taken through a major route in a community that will open up that community economically, that will lead to quick access, quick medical intervention, assuming that somebody is sick and then he needs medical intervention. Then routing and road construction should be linked to the siting of health institution and educational institution for easy access. He sees those major roads, whether it's a federal road or a state road or a local government road that needs grading, which the chairman has to do. And then he returns in the evening and calls those who do election, because without those who do election, the man would not be in office. The world chairman of this world, and then sits with them. And then they bring drinks. And then they do barbecue. He sits down with them and says, "Na me be this, I be una governor." To give them a sense of belonging. You know why this is possible? Or do you know why it's necessary? Because when you want to go and do development and people rise to resist development, asking for certain levies to be paid, it is these people that you have gotten their buy-in that you are going to talk to them, that and bring an industry that would benefit you. I'm asking you, please, don't move against this industry. Protect the white men, protect the people who are coming with this investment. And it is the people that he has gotten their buy-in that are going to surround and run around and protect that investment. And so I'm saying that it is necessary for us to meet with those kind of people. And after that, he leaves, he goes to bed, still in that same local government. I'm talking about rethinking leadership from 2023 beyond. He sleeps in that local government. We are a Christian state. He wakes up, and then by 9 o'clock to 10 or 11, he holds an interdenominational worship service. Everyone who has heard that His Excellency the Governor, Mr. President, was in Akwa Ibom will want to go, just like we had Vice President Osibanjo, who was in the state during our anniversary. Everybody who heard that the Vice President was there, who could not have access to the banquet hall, now turned out into the stadium to see the Vice President. And so everybody within that community, whether it is in Ikoredibon, in Srubium, where I come from, or whether it is in Etinum, or whether it is in Afafium, in Sribum, they will turn out en masse for that international worship service. And what happens after? A massive lunch with the leader of the country, the leader of the state, and the leader of the local government. And who are those to provide this lunch? It leads to the next thing, rethinking business. The small caterers within those local government who are doing small businesses are going to be gotten to provide this lunch. And I will come to you when I want to talk about really reinventing businesses. That there has to be structured shared money for shared prosperity. And when you have looked at, when they have given you their billing, for whatsoever is their billing, for that service or service they are going to provide, catering service they are going to provide for that Sunday. If you have 10,000 or 20,000 persons and you said, okay, I'm going to have 10 or 20 caterers, and after they've given you what is their funding, as part of subvention or as part of grants to their businesses, you decide to say, okay, I'm going to add 200,000 on top or 500,000 on top to those caterers, because there might be that woman who is doing that catering businesses that throughout the 8 years of government, he will not have opportunity to touch Akwa Ibom money. Our money in Akwa Ibom is for us. And I want you to understand that and hear me clearly. And the time has come that we must get our money to be and work for us. And so he leaves Listen to my story in Rethinking Leadership. He leaves and returns to the capital, whether as president. On Monday morning, he asked for memo to be given in critical interventions. I don't know how you would feel that after State Executive Council meeting on Wednesday, that the issues that were raised over the weekend by the citizens of that local government has gotten State Executive Council approval. I don't know how you would feel. How would you feel? Is it rocket science? I'm asking you, is it rocket science? Of all I have said, is there anyone that you need to go to a special school to get learning? It is the learning is the daily living, the daily understanding of the different administrations of this state. And that is why I want to speak to what Harry said. And when you want to do the next leadership recruitment, don't look at our lips, don't listen to us, look at our antecedents and our backgrounds and what we have represented in the past. X-ray us and see whether we have done the things we have promised to do before. So rethinking leadership is, in the next leadership recruitment in the state, I want to ask you, please think deeply. Then reconnecting people. Governance and government of the state is not only for politicians. We all have to be engaged in whatsoever we are doing. And leadership, I failed to mention a few things I was penning down in the flight. Let me read it out to you. It has to be purposeful, deliberate leadership, not leadership by happenstance. We have to make those who are prepared for leadership to lead. Those who are prepared for leadership. Because if you are not prepared for leadership, when the times of uncertainty comes, you are going to be overwhelmed. And so the next one is leadership that aggregates ideas. No leader has the monopoly of knowledge. I sat here in this hall since I came. I listened to people here. SARS and mass. The congregation of the brains, the energy, the knowledge inside this hall. Now, if harnessed, can build something great and greater in Akwa Ibom. And so a leadership that identifies ideas, and that's what I do in my little capacity. The people that are walking around me, I need them to be more intelligent than I do. Because if a leader does not have people who adds value to him, then that leader is heading towards perdition. The next thing is a leadership that communicates. Rethinking leadership is constant, sincere political communication, not propaganda and not lies. Tell the people as it is. If you are faced with challenges concerning the promises you made during campaign, come back and tell the people, I'm faced with this challenge, I cannot do it. And I want to show you where communication helps in leadership. And I want to use about 3 instances that we know. At the beginning of COVID-19 management in this state, we had counter-informations and misinformations. And so we did not know where to go. But it took His Excellency the Governor, and I appreciate him for that fact. I sent him a text when he had to address the state personally. And the moment he did that, there was a direction and there was calm. Was it not so? That is communication in leadership. The next example I have and I love in this period of uncertainty is the communication of Andrew Cuomo. How many of you listen to Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York City? In the midst of uncertainties, not only pandemic and COVID-19 uncertainty, but political uncertainty, because he was at loggerhead with the then President Donald Trump. He could not get the ventilators as he requested for. He kept communicating with the people with the challenges that he was faced with, and that's why he could rally New Yorkers. Then reconnecting people. The people need to be rallied to provide solutions to the challenges and to look out for each other in time like this. And so the next leadership, whether you are the family head or whether you are just a young person in the family, please, this is a time to pick up a phone and call your loved one. Because when we talk about this leadership, it's not only political leadership. Don't mistake that. You have to, if you are a CEO and then you have workers working with you, whether they are 3 or 4 or 5, please, even after work, pick up a phone and call those workers and find out how they are doing and get them to open up to talk to you. So many people are dying of depression. I receive almost like 600 to 700 text messages a day. The ones I've tried to sit down, and one of the things that tried to weigh me down, and I ask God for strength, is when you get to hear people say, I'm giving up. I don't even have food to eat. And then you hear depressing, you could, even those who cannot, you could read the depressions in the lines they send to you. So please, reconnecting people now means that you need to ask, call your loved ones, call your friends, and ask how they are doing. And the little that you have, please. We used to waste food. You eat and then you leave the remaining and then you dump it in the trash. Please. If you know that you cannot finish if you know that you cannot finish the food, don't scoop it into your plate. Just have the little that you can and then send the remaining that you have to the next person. That is reconnecting people in times of uncertainties. Don't think that anything is too small. Walk into that your wardrobe. My pastor and my spiritual father, Reverend Auntie, would always say, the clothes that you have not worn for 6 months does not belong to you. The shoes that you have not used in 6 months does not belong to you any longer. Reconnecting people. Send those clothes back to people. Because you would have helped them conserve the finances that they would have used in purchasing their clothing to use in some other thing else. Then, reinventing businesses. And my few lines, I will conclude. When you rethink leadership, you will now be able to reconnect people and harness the energy. And the next thing to do is to see how businesses can thrive and survive. And so my few lines, some have already been adumbrated by the speakers before me. I share the thoughts of my brother Magnus. One of the things I know that is facing businesses today is multiple taxation. And so the next thing we have to do, rethinking leadership too, because all these sub-themes are connected, is that there is need for harmonization. There is need for the local government and the state government to sit, because some of the local government and some of the taxes are either from local government. And there is need for government to know what the agencies and department of government are taxing people for, so that there can be a synergy. And so for that, there has to be a sort of a tax conference where small businesses are going to be encouraged to come forward. And then while government is seeking, we have to balance the interest of trying to raise the revenue of government to provide social services, and equally we should make sure that we don't stifle businesses. So reinventing businesses is that we have to look at the issue of taxation. It's very key. Then we have to do massive investment in healthcare in the state, in the country, because businesses will, while we have experienced AI, artificial intelligence, there are areas that machines can't perform. You still need human input for those machines to perform. So you need a healthy workforce. You need what? A healthy workforce to be able to have businesses grow. And so we have to invest heavily in healthcare. And I appreciate what His Excellency Governor Udom Emmanuel is doing in the health sector, the massive turnaround that we are seeing in the secondary health institutions. But there is something we need to address. That is the issue of primary health care. We've had the infrastructure. The challenge we have is the staffing. And the staffing, you need certain level of trained officers like community health workers, community extension workers, people to midwives, and people to work in the maternity homes, and we need their education. What we need going forward at that level is that we need minimum ward under the primary healthcare services, minimum ward healthcare package to deal with prevention of communicable diseases, and then deal with how to immunize our people, and then equally deal with health education, deal with the issue of childbirth, deal with the issue of nutrition. And so where do we do this, which equally links to rethinking leadership, is that we need to convert our schools of health technologies to college of health technologies so that they can award higher certification, so that we can have the staff and the personnel to man those health institutions back. And while we have addressed the issue of infrastructure, we are addressing the issue of personnel. There's another issue. Nobody would take his sick person to a primary healthcare center that there is no light and there is no security. So can we take the benefit of the solar mini grid that is available now to provide lighting for those primary healthcare institutions, so that we can have at least 18-hour power supply within those primary healthcare centers? The next one is, there is no personnel that will stay in a particular health institution if his life is not guaranteed. A situation where you have a health worker who goes to a local community, like a situation like he goes to Okorete or Okoramboko in East Nobolo, and then maybe he has an incident of maybe burglary or theft. That health worker will not go there again. So what do? Per village. Rethinking leadership, and then getting businesses to thrive. Get 20 young men per village, and then make them security in those villages, and then profile them with the security, the conventional security, so that they are not only providing security for the health personnel within those facilities, they are equally providing security for public installations within those communities, like the borehole. Because you drill a borehole and the next thing you wake up the following morning, they've stolen the submersible pump. Then you have a transformer, the next day they've stolen the armored cable. And so you would have created employment and then decide to pay these young people. You've created employment, you provided security for those public institutions. I am telling you, they might sound simplistic, but these are the things I have seen under studying 3 administrations in this state, passively and actively. So I am asking you, we cannot do it all alone, nobody can. So we need people with ideas. I've talked about investment in healthcare. The other one is, how do we encourage the training of our people in residency? Medical officers to train to become registrars, and from registrars to becoming senior registrars, and from senior registrars to becoming consultants. These are key. And you cannot pay them the civil service salary and expect them to remain in service as health workers. Across the world, there are certain packages meant for health workers so that they can be encouraged. Look at what they are going through in fighting pandemic, exposing themselves to the challenges. So they need to be incentivized. And so can we do, even in the civil service, the doctors in civil service, can we have a special structuring for in-service training residency so that they can be free to go for their education and training, to have what we could call, somebody spoke about current knowledge in their respective fields. And so these are the things I believe that can be done. The other one is feeding. Food is very key, so we need to invest massively in agriculture. We need to key in and then extend the frontiers of what the governor is doing in the area of agriculture. But we need to do more. Like an issue of, can we get communities to give us like 200 hectares of land? There are countries and there are communities, there are states in developed countries that their mainstay is agriculture. I represented Nigeria in Mexico in 2010. I drove from the Mexico City to a city called Leon for about 5.5 hours in a Marco Polo bus of about 90 kilometers per hour, both sides of the road agriculture. If it is not cereal, it is ranching. And so can we go into partnership, sister state partnership with such states, and say, if you are good in plantain, we are giving you a certain hectares of land in Ikono, like you have a massive land along Nkwot Ikono. As you are going to Nkwot Ikono, saying massive land there on your left. Can we ask that we use that land for plantation? And then from there we begin to establish a flour mill, plantain flour mill. Can we have certain land that is good in planting legumes and plant beans, and then begin to have beans flour, that instead of you to have to wash beans to make akara or moimo the same day, then you can grind beans and then have beans powder, just like we have had gari, to make your akara or make your moimo. These are the things that we can do. Or can we have massive land to go into planting of cassava, and then we are going to bring starch industry. When we have had the massive growth of small businesses, then it would feed the big industries, big and giant industries that we are looking for. Look at what the government has brought, the flour mill. Now we have to have massive planting of yam and massive planting of cassava, so that we can begin to have that flour mill produce cassava flour and then equally produce yam flour. And I love the government is forward looking and thinking in getting us to do what is what we call a competitive advantage, because we have the land and then we are good in agriculture. The other one is education, massive investment, targeted education. I want to urge you here, when you hear people sit and talk about people manning different offices in Abuja because of nepotism, yes, it's right, but sometimes not right. The people we are accusing of nepotism, look into the next 10-20 years. What are those areas that are going to thrive? They send their people for training outside the country and prepare their minds and prepare them to come and fit in. I have so many of my friends today in other parts of the country who are reading for doctorate degree in solar and renewable energy, because they know that is the future. And I thank God for great sons of our land. I've had great sons, people like Udemedwok, who have gone into that area of renewable energy. So last year, LNG Train 7 project, about $10.5 billion US. That project is going to require almost about 300 quality assurance engineers. How many of our people are trained to come and run that LNG Train 7 project? Could we have thought forthright of had an insight to train our people in the oil and gas, and then think of having like $1 billion out of that chunk? Do you know what $1 billion would have done to the economy of our state? And so targeted spending in education is key out of these uncertainties. And when I talked about investment in healthcare, thank God that people started making face masks. But we have to go beyond the industry of making face masks, cloth face masks, to see, can we go to producing medical face masks? That's a business line. And all these can only thrive when we have support from government. Government must support business to grow. The big businesses that are growing in Nigeria today are supported by government. Quote me, Dangote is supported by government to grow. Because of what? Tax rebate. He's been given certain tax rebate in certain fields and is asked to do Obajana road that leads to a cement factory. So government must give leverage. Even in America, in uncertainties, times of uncertainties, they've talked about stimulus package. So whether by small grant, which would be my conclusion, whether by small grant or loan, low interest loan, we have to support small businesses to grow. ICT, which is why I have been so close to Hansen and your Nooks brothers, that is the next thing we need to do. Educational technology is going to come up very key in this area of e-learning. So if you can go and learn, go and acquire knowledge in educational technology, and rethinking leadership and reinventing business. we need a broadband that is fast in this state. We need a fiber optic. As soon as possible. Because I have seen the things I can do while I'm in Abuja and in Lagos, and then because of speed, I can't do them here. And so we need a broadband. ICT is the way to go. And we must invest in that. In conclusion, I want to thank you for this opportunity you've given to me today. And I wish community stakeholders for social good, it's my wish, can begin to have conversation around sub-themes. Healthcare as a sub-theme. Education development as a sub-theme. Agriculture as a sub-theme. We bring experts to begin to share with us ideas, knowledge on where to go. Thank you once again, and may God bless you.